Hello everyone, this is a tutorial for using Frosty Mod Manager version 1.0.6.3. Specifically, this is for use with Dragon Age Inquisition. I will be talking about downloading and installing the manager itself, as well as downloading, installing, and applying mods. This tutorial we'll also talk about upgrading from version 1.0.6.1 or 0.2. I will also go over some tips and tricks, as well as doing a full walkthrough of applying mods. Now, the Frosty Mod Manager used to have its own website, frostytoolsuite.com, but it's down now. I don't know why, and I don't know if it'll ever be back up again. Honestly, I don't know if Frosty will be getting updates. In general, now you have to use the GitHub link, which I will have below, and is also a requirement on every single one of my mod pages. So you can just right click here or left click, honestly, and it'll take you straight to this latest release of Frosty 1.0.6.3. If you end up at the general GitHub page, all you have to do is come down here to releases and click the latest release right here. Now, before we set up Frosty, I recommend doing the following to set up your mod folder in general. Create a new folder on whatever drive that you're going to put Frosty on. Make sure that this is the same drive that your Dragon Age Inquisition game is on. Don't make it in the same folder as Dragon Age Inquisition, but make sure it's on the same drive. So for me, that is my external hard drive. So create this new folder and name it something along the lines of Dragon Age Inquisition modding. So for me, you could just do DAI modding. Personally, I have several games that I mod, so I have a specific modding folder and then categorize all of them. But if you're just doing Dragon Age Inquisition or you want things a little more separate, just create this new folder. Within this new folder that we've created, make another folder, label that mods. This way you can keep the Frosty Mod Manager separate from the actual mods that you have, just so things are a little more organized and easy to navigate. Personally, I create more subfolders to categorize my mods because I have so many. So I have things like hair, miscellaneous, or bug fixes, things like that. Now that we have that all set up, you can scroll down to the bottom of the Frosty page. Make sure that you're on this version 1.0.6.3, that it doesn't say beta or anything next to it. It has this green latest release tab. Click to download the Frosty Mod Manager zip file. Once that has finished downloading, go ahead and extract that folder. We're going to go to that folder that we created, and we're going to select that folder. The great thing about the Frosty Mod Manager zip file is that it already comes with everything in its own organized folder, so you don't need to create a new one. So just pop that in that folder. Once that's extracted, we can open that up. Before you try to install Frosty, make sure that you go to the Prereqs folder and make sure that you have all of these installed. You can double check that you have them installed because you might already. Just try to install them again, and if you already have it installed, it'll just say failed to install because you already have it. Now you can go to frostymodmanager.exe, double click that, and it will start installing. It may take a while. Once Frosty Mod Manager has finished installing, you'll end up with this screen here, but you won't have the Dragon Age Inquisition game. You can click this button down here to scan for games automatically. So if you have another game like FIFA or Mass Effect Andromeda, it should also detect that game. If it doesn't, for whatever reason, click New down here, and you can manually find your game.exe file. It will most likely be under this file named Dragon Age Inquisition, and right there, Dragon Age Inquisition.exe. I have mine through the EA app, so that's how simple it is for me. If, however, you're using Steam, go to Steam Library, Steam Apps, Common, then find the games folder, go to bin, and there you go, .exe. Click that, click open, and once it's finished configuring that, double click, and it'll bring it right up. If, however, you run into a fun little unhandled exception error where it says, you know, whoa, it couldn't find these strings, blah, 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 and Frosty just won't launch because of it, go to your C drive, go to users. Once you've gone into the folder of your user, go to app data, local, scroll down and find Frosty. See how it says this manager underscore config? Or it may have other files in there. I don't know. Either way, just delete it. Bye-bye. Throw it out. For some reason, it just causes problems. I actually ran into that issue when I was upgrading from 6.1 to 6.3. That could also be because I had a prior version of Frosty installed. I don't know. The thing is, Frosty Mod Manager doesn't upgrade itself. They're not the same app necessarily. So each of the versions that you have will be in their own separate folder. So if you're upgrading from 6.1 or 6.2 to version 6.3, I recommend keeping the folder you already have. Keep the old version, just in case you need to downgrade for whatever reason. If you already have a desktop shortcut of Frosty Mod Manager for a prior version, I recommend deleting that just so things don't get confusing. Then go ahead and create a shortcut for the newest version. Once Frosty has been completely installed, close out of the app, then right-click, and run as administrator. I recommend always running Frosty as an administrator just to make sure that there aren't issues with your firewall or anything like that. Now we can go back to Frosty. And before we install those mods, let's double check some of the options. Here you can check to remember the profile choice. Profiles are this thing over here where it says pack. This is my Inquisitor Miravas. That's my latest playthrough. So this will keep all of the mods that I've applied, even if they're unchecked. It's a great way to organize for each of your different playthroughs. To add a new profile, you can click the plus button here and name it. To remove one, you can press the minus. If you got a pack that you've created or have downloaded from someone else, you can import it here. To change your pack, just click the arrow here and select it. Personally, I keep the remember profile choice checked since I'm usually only doing one playthrough at a time. Something new about the Frosty Mod Manager version 1.0.6.3 that was not present in 6.1 is that you don't set your launch platform. Instead of this tab being about launch options, it's the BioWare localization options. This is about for editor options and text IDs and things like that. You don't need to touch that as far as I know. Now that Frosty has been installed and we've got that open, we can download some mods. I'm going to be using one of the mods that I created simply because it's pretty easy to see if you've got it. Another example for being able to tell if it works is a complexion mod or a hair mod, any texture mod really. So this mod is supposed to add all of the Black Emporium crafting materials, as well as the blank runestones and Serral infused glass from Bonnie Sim's store into the Respec store in both Haven and Skyhold's forges. The Respec store is where you'll find those Tactician renewal amulets where you can respend your skill points. When you're downloading a mod, make sure that you look at the requirements. If a mod requires another mod, make sure that you download that mod first and apply it, and then apply this mod, or, well, whichever mod has the requirement. I will talk a little more about load order later. Go over to Files, and when you find the version that you want, click Download. I don't think Frosty can do the mod manager download, so don't bother with that side. When your mod is finished downloading, extract that. You can technically go ahead and pop zipped folders and archives into Frosty Mod Manager, but just for the sake of just eliminating possible issues, I tend to extract them first. Extract that mod into your mods folder. I'm going to put mine in miscellaneous. Now that we have that all sorted out, we can go down to this part and add mod. You can also drag and drop your mods. Now once that has opened, it is applied to the Frosty Mod Manager, but it is not applied to your game yet. You have to click this button, Apply Mods. That will add it to your list. To apply a mod, you can also just double click. If you need to remove a mod, you can click this X button here. That'll remove it from the list, not the mod manager. If you want to remove it from the mod manager, you'll need to find it and click Remove Mods. Make sure that this checkbox is checked. You can have mods in your list if you're going to use them later or something. That's what I do with mine. So things like formal wear, there's only really 2 instances where you wear that, so I have them ready to go in my list, but I just keep them unchecked until I need them. So once you've ensured that this check mark is checked, and ensure that Frosty is running in administrator mode, go to the program that you have Dragon Age installed from. For me, that is EA. For you, it could be Steam. If you're using EA, I don't know if this is also the case with Steam, I recommend also running that as administrator, again, to help eliminate any possible security issues. So EA has opened up for me, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit out of it. For me, that just minimizes it to my system try down here. If yours doesn't, just keep it open and minimize it. Now, when launching Dragon Age Inquisition with mods applied, you have to launch through Frosty. You can't just launch it directly through the app or anything else. You have to launch through Frosty or else your mods will not appear every single time. Let's click Launch, and this will load in the mod. Depending on how many mods you have, that could take a while. Now that reshade overlay thing that you were seeing is a reshade preset. It has nothing to do with Frosty Mod Manager. So when I launched the game this time, I had literally no other mod applied other than this Black Emporium and Bonnie Sim's mats in Forge Stores mod. Even though I have all of these mods over here, nothing except for this one is going to show up in the game. Please note that when using mods, especially texture mods or something like that, Dragon Age Inquisition will most likely take longer to load. If you're using texture mods, or generally just a lot of mods, like I am, I've unfortunately noticed that this loading screen here doesn't last as long, in the sense that when it's loading, it'll probably just switch to the black loading screen eventually. If you get that black loading screen, that doesn't necessarily mean anything's wrong. If your game has been loading for more than like 2 minutes, I would definitely quit the game, then check over your mods, try unapplying some of them, and see which one's the problem. One way to know that I have infinite loading going on, I've noticed, is if the music cuts out. So even if it's been loading for like 30 seconds, and suddenly the music just cuts out, that's how I know it's not going to load. Alright, now that that's loaded in, let's go to the Undercroft. Since this mod affects the respec store at the Forge, that means it also affects the one at Haven. So if you're not at Skyhold yet, just go to the Haven Forge. Should be the same store. Normally, all you have is this Tactician's Renewal Amulet. But to see if this mod is working, let's go over to crafting materials. There we are. Every single crafting material offered in the Black Emporium, as well as the ones at Bonnie Sim's store, they're in the same quantity and price as the original stores. So we know this mod is working. Yay! If for some reason your mod didn't show up, one thing to troubleshoot, go to your Dragon Age Inquisition folder and make sure that there's a folder that says ModData. Frosty should automatically create this folder. If your Dragon Age Inquisition folder does not have a ModData folder, you can just go ahead and create one yourself. Make sure that it's named specifically ModData, same capitalization, and no space in between those words. Frosty should automatically detect that folder once you launch it again. Now, a note about load order. You may not have as many as I have, but if you're using a mod such as a texture mod, you may have requirements. A mod may require another mod, and in that case, you want to put the required mod first, then put the mod that requires it on the bottom. This is because with your load order, mods listed at the top are loaded first, and mods listed at the bottom are loaded last. But what that means is that these mods at the bottom will override any mods towards the top. They go in this order. So mods at the bottom take priority. If you're using a Dragon Age Inquisition Mod Manager mod, so a .DAIMM mod, Frosty can load those mods, but they're really hit or miss. I recommend putting them at the bottom of your load order, and if they're a texture mod specifically, use a Chargenbundle or Chargen. That's short for character generation. I'll put a link for this mod in the description as well. You don't need this specific mod. Kittentails also supplies a character generation bundle right here. So you can download that, and you would apply it as you would any other mod. I recommend loading any textures above that, but if it's a texture like a .DAIMM mod, load that below. There are always exceptions to these rules. Sometimes you just gotta play around with it. I also recommend checking posts. Sometimes people will have had the same issue that you had, and there may already be a fix for it, or the author may have pinned a post with some important information. Please note that the more mods you have, the longer it's going to take to apply. And anytime you switch between profiles or check or uncheck mods, it's going to have to reapply all of these. Sometimes you may also have a pop-up from Windows asking, oh, yep, just like this. A new installation detected doesn't necessarily mean there's a new installation detected. Shortly, you will be prompted for elevated privileges. Click OK. Sometimes that'll pop up with a command prompt saying, do you want to let Frosty Mod Manager do this, blah, blah, blah. Just click yes. That just means you're allowing Frosty past your security settings. And since I went from one mod to all of these mods, it's going to take a while for the game to launch this time. If you're using a hair mod, it's best to have this mod from Demetrius, modded hair in DLCs. Check with the mod page for the hairstyle that you got, just to make sure about any other requirements or compatibility with this. Make sure that you're using the Frosty Mod Manager version. There are a few other options depending on what DLCs you have, but for me, since I have all of them and I don't use enhanced character creation, I use this one. Install that like you would any other mod. And ensure that you put this mod below any hair mod that you use. Another important thing when using hair mods or texture mods in general is to go to your game options, go to graphics, make sure your mesh quality setting is at ultra. Having your texture quality set to ultra is also a very good idea. If you're having issues with a mod, you can check the Actions tab over here. So if you have multiple mods, you can scroll through here to see if there are any replacements, anything that is conflicting with each other. Another way to check for compatibility issues between mods is to check the description of the mod. So select the mod, click Description, check down here at the affected files. With texture mods or replacement mods, another important thing is to know the compatibility between them. Some mods are incompatible with others, especially mods that edit bundles. So something like this rogue champion armor, I ran into this where I have a warrior hawk in my current playthrough, but I was not a fan of the warrior champion look, and I saw a mod that would change it to a 4K version of the rogue champion. Absolutely beautiful. I'll link it. But the issue with that is I also was going to look for this mod. I wanted this mod, which changes Aramon to have a rather cool Venatori looking outfit instead of his goofy ass ponytail. The issue with that is that to switch my Hawk's armor, I also needed this. You can see that down here, there are bundle files. The issue that had is that it's incompatible with any other bundle edit, which changing Aramon's outfit is also a bundle edit. So those mods can't work at the same time. That's something to keep in mind. So if you end up with like a floating head or something, check for any bundle edits that may be conflicting with each other. When in doubt, remember to check the mod page, check for requirements, and any notes the author or users have left about compatibility. If you're having trouble with one particular mod, you can always reach out to the mod author. When you do that, it's recommended to take a screenshot of your load order and give a description of what specifically is going on. Say you're having pixelated textures, or parts of a mod are showing up, or you're getting T-posing or something. Be specific about what you're doing. Make sure that you're launching through Frosty, that you have your mods checked, and give a detailed description of your load order. I hope all of that was helpful. If you have any other questions or there's something that I didn't quite cover, please let me know. Hopefully, though, that this covered anything you need to upgrade from Frosty 6.1 to 6.3, or if you're a beginner to Frosty modding in general. Thank you and happy modding!